everybody, and welcome to HRN Live. My name is, of course, Alex Grichuhin, and welcome to the HRN show. So, on today's topics, we have quite a bit going on within HRN right now, and but let's go over the topics really quick. John and I are going to try to go over as much of this as possible. There's a lot of things happening. Especially throughout the holidays and the winter months and things of that nature. So, all right. So let's start off with our first topic. We're going to kind of try to understand a little bit about combating pneumonia during the winter months and the holiday seasons and what we should do. Now, we're also going to try to bring up some tips with traveling during the holidays. And how could traveling in the colder months be different for those with COPD as opposed to traveling during summer months? So there's a lot to say about this topic. And I know there's two real topics in there, which is actually only one topic. We're seeing a large increase with pneumonia. Okay? So that's the big topic right now is that pneumonia. We're seeing a large increase in pneumonia. A lot of doctors are seeing a huge increase in pneumonia. Does anybody understand what immunocompromised is? So when your body is immunocompromised, you can have kidney disease, heart disease, lung disease. That includes COPD. And I know we discuss a lot about COPD, but in general, what we're really looking at is lung disease. COPD is a type of lung disease, but so is restrictive lung disease. Okay, so let's just look at lung disease in general. What is pneumonia? Does anybody know that? What's pneumonia? Anybody wants to try? If you have a comment or questions or comments, please write in the comment section of this, and we'll be happy to take a look at your answers or answer questions that you may have. Please also, if I haven't mentioned, which I know I didn't yet, please follow us on Facebook, on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and all that jazz, just to kind of stay updated with new intel as we're bringing up a lot of news.
So as we are bringing up everything, we also have some exciting news that will come later in the live stream as well, and related to respiratory care at home.
Oh yes. The one thing I want to bring up is,
Catherine says pneumonia is an infection.
Very good. That is exact definition. Catherine, that is the exact definition. Perfect. That is a lung infection. Does it specifically state what type of lung infection? No. No, pneumonia isn't a specific lung infection. It's just a definition describing a lung infection. So when somebody says pneumonia, all that means is that there is a lung infection, but we still have to find out what type of infection is it. Is it a viral? Is it a bacterial infection? Is it something else? We have to do an examination. We have to do a lot of assessments. So I went to this conference that I was speaking to. I was speaking to the head director afterwards. This is MedStar Health, MedStar Georgetown University Hospital. Pretty big system that we're working with as well. But let me kind of explain something here. In pulmonary rehab, you should always be looking at results, never just the location. When you go into a pulmonary rehab, you don't know if the pulmonary rehab you're choosing is a good one or a bad one. Regardless of the location, you want to pick something that's going to work for you, of course. Picking a bad one, which means poor outcomes. Picking a bad one could actually make you worse. Literally worse. It might maintain what you have, but you don't want to maintain what you have. You're going to pulmonary rehab to advance yourself health-wise. Okay, you don't want to maintain what you have. You want to do more. Okay, so that's pulmonary rehab. This conference that I went to, it was more of a seminar, but anyways, conference seminar. It's almost the same thing. they were talking about the doctor was talking about lung transplants. Does anybody want to comment on this, on lung transplant? Does anybody know what the average lifespan with somebody who had lung transplant? Does anybody know?
Isn't it only like a couple years at most?
Not even that. I want to see if anybody knows. Does anybody know? Because if you looked into a lung transplant, you will see that life expectancy isn't very high afterwards. I'm not degrading lung transplant at all.
Catherine says about 5 years. Karen says 5 years.
No, it's not 5 years. 1 year. Look it up. This is an actual studied thing. It's already been proven. 1 year on average now. Before, when lung transplant first happened, they nearly almost guaranteed it only for a few months. Look it up. I'm not making this stuff up. 1 year. And we went to Georgetown, and that's Georgetown. That's a very, very intelligent, that's a big hospital system.
Catherine says that's terrible, that expectancy.
1 year. Where'd you get 5 years from?
No,
1 year.
Well, yeah.
1 year. And I was baffled by that, and I had to raise my hand. I said, "You're telling me now still it's up to only a year? It's on average. You might have somebody that might go past a year, but on average, it's a year. Okay? A year. All right. So, lung transplant is not, the things that we're doing in lung transplant is becoming more successful. How do you make a lung transplant more successful? Let's say you don't want to just live a year. Let's say you want to live to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Right now, it's not probable, or it's not really that possible, according to current, just current thing. But I've noticed something with lung transplant when they were talking about readmission rates in COPD, and they were talking about lung transplants. They were saying that over 50% of the readmissions with people with COPD they occur within 14 days of discharge. Also, for those that do not know, COPD is the third leading cause of hospital readmissions in the U.S. and is also the third leading cause of death. 20% of readmission rates within 30 days post-exacerbation. 20% hospital readmission rates within 30 days post-exacerbation. That means once you had an exacerbation, there is a chance of you going back to the hospital for the same reoccurring reason. Okay. So how would you get... let me just finish this out first. How would you get somebody that has that needed a lung transplant? They needed it. They needed a lung transplant. How would you get that person to live longer than a year? What would you think you would have to do? What's the problem first? Why is the body rejecting it? Why? And they go with tissue samples and everything, and they try to get to the closest match as possible. Why is it being rejected, you think? Why are they failing after a year, on average? Does anybody know? Compliance. Okay. Let's say you have an organ, which we also know lungs are organs. Say you have an organ, and it's only functioning at 5%, 10%, because the muscles responsible for moving those organs, which are which muscles? Intercostal and diaphragm. Intercostal and diaphragm. Let me bring this up a little closer. The intercostal muscles are the muscles in between the ribs, and that big diaphragm that stays just underneath the xiphoid process. Okay? So you have the diaphragm. I think the monitor just went out. I did. Okay. So you have the diaphragm. You might need to ground yourself.
I'm trying to ground myself on everything.
He's producing a little static, so it's all right. Anyways, the intercostal and diaphragm. So somebody has a lung transplant, and they're only breathing. What they should be breathing in is, let's say, past 2,000 milliliters. Let's say they need to get to a volume of around 3,000 milliliters. to utilize the whole lungs. But the muscles that are responsible for opening up the lungs prior to that, that lung transplant, let's say the lung muscles were only capable of pulling 3 pounds of muscle, 3 pounds of weight. Okay, so to stretch the lungs out, you need a certain muscle to pull open those lungs to get air to come inside of it. That's just obvious. So let's say you have somebody who's breathing super shallow, and they've been breathing super shallow. Needless to say, the bottom intercostal muscles and the diaphragm aren't as strong as what they should be at. They're not as strong. They're very weak. So you have a lung transplant, and the lungs are only functioning at 10, 12, 50%, let's say. Because why? The muscles aren't strong enough to open and utilize all lungs, all the lobes inside the lungs, inside the chest cavity. So what's the problem? Do you see the problem? Because I just mentioned it about 3-4 times. So there is a big study that we're doing. There's a very large study. Also, another study with pulmonics. They're doing a study with us. They're using us exclusively. And
our man Kenny came in clutch here. He said they need to use the Delta V.
Yeah, you're going to need the Delta V. Yes. When you utilize pulmonary rehab, when you actually use pulmonary rehab the right way, when you're in a good pulmonary rehab, it doesn't even have to be HRN, but a good pulmonary rehab that gives really good results, which right now HRN is the highest one in the United States, is the highest level of outcomes. HRN. This program that you're watching right now, okay, the program that we do, the telemedicine, we do pulmonary and cardiac rehab, has the highest outcomes. I just want to state facts and a point here. I just want to make a good point. If the lung muscles were only capable of utilizing the lungs prior to the transplant at 12, 20, 30%, let's say 50% also, after the lung transplant, a lot of people don't realize that muscle doesn't come back until they work out those muscles. So then the new lungs that you just got, the lung transplant, okay, are still considered used, right? Because they didn't just grow it. Another body grew it. And that body was living in what? In the world. Does the world have some pollution? Heck yes, it does. Okay, there's a lot of things happening out there. So you're getting a transfer lung, right? You're getting a lung transplant. Hopefully this person probably never smoked, never had to, endure a lot of things, but I don't think that's the case with anybody. I think everyone has endured a lot in their life. Anyways, you get a lung transplant, and you're expecting everything to be 100%, but then you find it's not. Breathing is still very difficult. The organ is starting to fail. Why is that? Because we're not utilizing the lungs to its full potential. We're only using part of it because our muscles are only strong enough, for what it was capable of doing, which was shallow breathing and maxing out on an incentive spirometer when you're supposed to be at 65 milliliters per kilogram of ideal body weight. You're doing a fraction of that, a very small fraction of that. And you're wondering why the lung transplant didn't work. So what I was trying to bring up with this medical director over at George Washington is with the lung transplants, and also, what's her name? Christina somebody. I want to say Christina Moore. And we're colleagues. We're all colleagues. We all know each other in the pulmonary or respiratory field. And I was saying, what if we took 10 of the lung transplants? I think I said 10. What if we took 10 lung transplant patients? Because we have a lot of lung transplant patients, and they definitely lived over a year. They lived over a year. Where study is showing that that's not the case. That's not possible. But then they average it. They don't look at every single person. They just look at average. But for some odd reason, those lung transplants are working out with us, but they're not working out with any other program. So then we start getting into a joint venture with some hospital facilities, And I asked a simple question. I said, what if we have a therapy that works exclusively for lung transplants, and we're able to extend life expectancy past a year? Maybe if that is working that way, which is showing it is, and that's why there's a big study going on right now, maybe the therapy that we're doing should be modeled to other pulmonary rehabs, especially when they're doing lung transplants. Because what I heard from everybody talking about the lung transplant, they were talking about which medications they should be giving. And we all know, as intelligent individuals, especially patients, very intelligent, because why? They're doing research. Patients all over are doing research about their condition, what they can do about it, how to decrease work of breathing. They're educating themselves. Everyone in here, you're educating yourself. What if we had, we had a program that actually works exclusively, which we do, for lung transplants? I was asking that because I would like to do a study, and this study will involve lung transplant patients. But I have this very strong feeling that if you're just giving, which a lot of clinicians know this, and a lot of patients know this, that sometimes these medications don't work fully to what we expect. And there is no medication to fix stiff lungs, and there is no medication to fix COPD, okay? There is none. And especially to increase muscle mass, there is no medication for that. You have to physically work out in order for that to happen. And in this case, like that gentleman just said, Delta V, or respiratory muscle training. If you utilize respiratory muscle training, the chance of surviving after a year is very, we don't know the numbers, is very, very, very high. Okay? What's my point? Good therapy, don't ever take away from a place that gives good therapy. Like, don't take away from that. If you realize that this program, you're doing your own research, you're doing your due diligence, you're doing your own research and finding out that this program is one of the top ones, well, of course it is, because it's been showing that it is. It's a very high-level working program. It's covered by insurance. But I think we have a niche, and we at HRN are going to be proving it. So keep on a lookout with that, because for some reason our transplant patients work out really well. But every other facility out there in the United States, which is, I think, 300 facilities that are certified in the United States now. Before COVID, it was 831 facilities in 2017, but it dropped significantly. It dropped significantly after COVID, and a lot of places remain closed. There are pulmonary rehabs that remain closed. But even that, the average of those successes of those pulmonary rehabs were only 11% successful. HRN remains at 98.7%. You could say 99, but it's 98.7% successful. It's the highest. Okay? Pneumonia. We understand that is a lung infection. What type of symptoms would you think you would have with a lung infection? First signs, symptoms. What do you think?
So, Alex, before we get into it and let everybody have their answers
please, go ahead.
ready.
Yeah, please. I apologize. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify really quick because a lot of people were mentioning, I know somebody who lived 7 years, 5 years with lung transplant. We're talking about the average in studies. So you can have those that are above average, like, for example, HRN, the average for pulmonary rehab success is 11%, like you said.
Guys, these are these are facts.
Yeah.
Whether we like them or not, this is a fact. You can throw out any number you want, but these are facts.
Whereas we're in the top tier percent, and somebody else's experience, if you want to relate that to what you're talking about with lung transplant and living those many years, can be like top tier experience. Whereas the average person is unfortunately less than a year, and that's unfortunate. Just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, we got confirmation from a lot of the pulmonologists that we work with. And I even brought up with Dr. Shaw in the conference because he was at the conference. I said, is it really only a year? He said, yeah. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. You know, and he says you might find somebody that lives past a year, you know, but that's a very, very slim chance.
Yeah.
You know, these are not things that we are making up. These are things that this was George Washington Hospital. These are statistics that are based off of peer review. So it's not just one facility stating this. This is the national average. National average.
Yeah, and you know, your friend might be. I don't remember who made the comment in the comment section, but your friend might be living on year 7 with it, and that's great, and we're happy for them and everything. But unfortunately, the average is.
And then also, we also want to state complete lobectomies versus partial lobectomies with reincision with a small spare new lungs. That's different. So if somebody had a complete lobectomy, meaning they took the lungs were completely taken out, not just small segments. We're talking about complete lobectomies. Complete. Okay? With a complete lung transplant. We're talking about those types of people. Not small segments, because they do that with small segments, and people live a lot longer than a year. But that's because they're still utilizing the lungs that they've been born with, and they're only, that small little part that's been removed, and another lung was transplanted with that. That might be a small segment.
And even then, the statistics, that then changes the statistics.
Of course.
It changes the variable.
Guys, as intelligent people, we have to understand facts. From fiction, we also have to understand that this is a science. Okay, we can't just say, "Oh, I know this person that lived, 10 years or something."
That's one out of however million.
I have no idea. No idea.
Yeah, you can't base that off of.
I think
the
per
average.
year they do around 30,000 transplants per year in the United States. I think that was the case, but a lot of those people aren't around. They base it off of those.
Yeah.
From all the lung transplants. And Dr. Shaw could bring it into more context, because he's a pulmonologist. I'm a, advanced respiratory therapist. But yeah, just kind of keep that in mind. Any other comments, questions?
So Larissa asked about the success rate for lung valves. Larissa, we actually have a live stream. Once this one is finished, I encourage you to go and watch Dr. Shaw's interview with Dr. Shostak from a few weeks ago.
Yeah, look that up.
He will explain lung valve. He explains lung valve procedures. That's on our YouTube, and you can literally just search that up on our YouTube channel.
You guys can't just understand that you can replace your body with mechanical parts and expect everything to be excellent. I've never met anybody that went through back surgery that came out saying, I'm 100%.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
Okay?
We can't all be Darth Vader here.
Yeah, we have to understand facts. Okay? And this is when you're looking at a science, we have to really roll up our sleeves and pull out a calculator sometimes to figure out probability, as well as accountability, but a probability. With the chances of somebody going from end-stage lung disease back up to a moderate to mild to normal lung spirometry, meaning your lung functions.
Catherine says exactly with how she feels. Anyway, back to pneumonia with our main topic. And also remember to stay tuned for quite the news update regarding pulmonary rehab.
I want to pull this up on the board.
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with pneumonia, I'm going to go over just something that I usually go over with my patients.
So Pamela, to answer your question, Pamela commented of pain while breathing. That's how she can tell. But you'll obviously explain more on that.
All right. So we definitely need a close-up on this here. Okay. All right. The reference off of this, what I mean by reference is after this, you can look this up just to see facts. So these are based off facts. The reference point, where to find the references is the CDC. You can go to Center of Disease Control.gov, not .com, .gov. All right. You can also go to the American Lung Association, but CDC, NIH, National Institute of Health will have usually all this information on there. Okay. let's look at something really simple. Okay, which one's worse? Bacteria or a virus? Let's look at which one's worse. Okay? Let's make it really simple. Which one's worse? A bacteria? This is a B, by the way. My B's look a little bad, sorry. B. Okay. A bacteria or a virus? Which one's worse? What do you think? All right, how about this? Let me make this really simple. Okay. If I here, let's pretend this has the pen, the dry erase marker on this has some ingredients that has a virus on it, and I put this virus right here. I just sprayed this virus onto this board. Okay. How long can this virus live by itself? First answer? Anybody? How long can that virus live by itself? Anybody?
Ooh, we have some differing opinions here.
It's all right. That's why I'm going over this.
Yeah.
We're going to state facts, and don't worry if you get it wrong. We're here to learn. Don't worry about it. Okay?
Was it Sierra Olivia and Larissa, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, say viruses are worse because there's no treatment. Marty says 8 hours to your second question. Catherine says 24 hours. Pamela says days. And Catherine said bacteria is worse. So you have a variety of answers.
All right. So if I spray a virus onto this surface, this virus, no matter what kind of virus it is, you're maxing out at 3 to 4 days max. That's when that virus will expire. And why is that? Because it doesn't have a what? A host. Okay? You have to understand the organism. No animal in the world wants to die. And their colony wants to thrive. So if the colony dies, its whole organism, the whole thing, it just dies. No, it doesn't want that to happen. So you have to kind of really think, really think clever. You got to be really clever on this. A virus needs a host. It cannot breathe on its own. It cannot feed itself. It needs you to do that. So whether you like it or not, some viruses can live with you for the rest of your life and you don't even realize it's there. Because you give it warmth, you give it food, you give it air, you give it everything it needs. It doesn't want you to die. But the craziest thing about viruses, they've been around for such a long, long time. They've even developed a way to protect itself. If you are in a certain, let's say you're close proximity to a person, and that person has another virus that could kill the virus that you have, that virus can sense this and know that. And what it will do is will attack that person. Did you know that? You will be asymptomatic. You won't feel anything. The other person is dying. That's how smart viruses are. That's not a joke. Okay? Viruses don't want to die. They want to live. They want to live for a very long time. You give it everything it needs. Okay? But if it doesn't have those supplies, 3 to 4 days, that's all it needs. Now let's look at bacteria.
Pamela says OMG.
I know, right? It's pretty nuts, but that's a fact. That's an actual fact. I love microbiology. That's one of my favorite subjects. Now, I put a bacteria, I squirt a bacteria onto this side. How long could that live? Viruses with 3 to 4 days, please don't exaggerate, but 3 to 4 days, I'm going to put days here so we understand it's days, not years or anything. Okay. Which would be ridiculous, But anyways, bacteria. How long can a bacteria live by itself without any food source or breathing or anything? Like what? How long can you think it can live by itself with no host?
I am willing to bet that it is a couple of, I'm going to say a day. Pamela says 24 hours. Catherine says bacteria is always around. So,
you're not understanding this. No, it's okay. Bacteria, just like any organism, needs to live. They need to thrive. They need to eat. They need to breathe. So, even though bacteria is around, they have a source where they can stay alive. That's not the answer to the question I asked. What I asked was, with no resources. How long can that bacteria, I'm not mentioning what type of bacteria, how long can a bacteria live by itself with no resources to consume anything? It's a simple question. Anybody give me a good answer? Please. Don't be shy. Even if you come with the wrong answer, I'm not going to make you look foolish. I don't know everything upon everything, but this I do know a lot of. Anybody?
Catherine says it can't. Like, it can't survive. I think that's what
Okay.
she means.
Well, it can't survive for a ton of time, but there is some time. Just like a virus can live by itself for 3 to 4 days.
Kenny says 48 hours.
Okay, I got 48 hours. What else? Give me a couple more answers, guys. Come on, don't be shy. Let's act up.
Pamela says forever.
Pamela, come on. That's ridiculous. There's no food source. You're telling me that if I put a bacteria into outer space, if I put it just someplace, it will live in that spot forever.
Catherine also says 3 to 4 days, same as a virus. And then
Pamela, what was that? Come on, forever. That's crazy.
Marty says he's going to go with 8 hours.
8 hours? Okay, I need everyone to look this up.
Rick from Facebook says 12 hours.
Try 10 years.
Oh.
Try 10 years. That's a long time.
Just a little bit.
That's not forever. There's no such thing as that. Everything has to die. Okay, 10 years by itself. 10 years. 10 years. Did I specifically name what kind of bacteria? No. Now, let's take all the viruses from the first answers. Viruses are the worst, or bacteria are the worst. I'll let you know something here. Okay? Viruses don't want you to die. Bacteria don't care if you did. The bacteria's job is to consume everything it possibly can. It will be selfish. It doesn't care if you have a high temperature. It doesn't care if you pass away. It will transport to somebody else or some other organism. Okay? It will consume everything it has, everything that, whatever carcass or whatever, body or, organism. It will consume everything it can to make sure it stays alive. Okay? 10 years. Virus is 3 to 4 days. Now, if we fed that virus, could it live a lot longer than 10 years? Absolutely. It can live with you the rest of your life. You don't even realize you have it. Okay. From every single virus and bacteria, please, everybody, do your research. From every single virus and bacteria, this is on the NIH. Okay, this is on NIH, National Institute of Health. NIH. What are, from viruses and bacteria, we can even bring up mold, fungi, stuff like that, but let's just look at bacteria and viruses really quick. From bacteria and viruses, what is the percentage of them combined, combined, not just one over the other, combined, what percentage are the ones that are harmful to you? Give me a percent. Is it 80%, 90%, 50% that is harmful to you? Harmful. I'm using the word harmful. The ones that will get you sick. The ones that will kill you. The ones that will hurt you.
I know the answer to this one, and I'm not going to share it because...
Thank you.
Because I've been here for every live stream, so I know the answer. I listen.
What is the percentage that can harm you? Anybody, please. Come on, guys. Just throw out answers. Don't worry. Don't worry if you get it wrong.
Catherine says 30%.
All right, I got 30%. All right, I got 30%. Anybody else? What's that?
I was singing the Jeopardy music.
I got 30%. Anybody else? Come on, give us a number. Have fun with this.
Deb says 50.
50%.
Larissa says 15.
15%. Okay. Which one is the closest, you think? Good. Thank you, Jordan. Which one is the closest? None. None of them are the answer, okay? So I'll give you the answer down here. Please write this down and look it up so you can see that this is nothing that I'm making up. Yeah, I can't do that as a practitioner, but I have to give you guys facts. So it is actually less than 1%. Should I repeat that? Less than 1%. So whoever said 30, nope, 50, 15 was the closest. But less than 1%. So if you've ever gotten sick a day in your life, you were affected by that less than 1%. So am I also saying that every bacteria and every virus is not harmful to you? Yes. Yes. Not every single bacteria, Deb, not every single bacteria, 50%. I remember you said that. 50%? Not every single bacteria and virus is harmful to you. And we tend to treat every single bacteria and virus as they're harmful, and then what happens? Every time there's a little bacteria, little virus, Now, if you're not getting sick at all, obviously you have nothing to worry about. Let's say you have no immune system. Will that affect you? Of course. Of course, you'll get sick very often. Very, very often. Okay? But if you're immunocompromised, then those numbers can actually be a little higher, but on average, less than 1%. That means, now, if we're going to look at which one's worse, it's actually bacteria's worse. Viruses need a host. It doesn't want you to die. Bacteria doesn't care if you die. If you have a bacterial infection, you go to the hospital, you go to the doctor as quickly as you can. A virus, not much else you can do with it. You have to wait its course. Okay, you got to wait for it to be over. There is no cure to viruses per se. Okay, so you have to wait it out with a virus, but bacteria, yeah. Okay, there was a gentleman. It wasn't that long ago. I believe it was 1930. I want to say it's Harold Wimmer, but I know he's the president of the American Lung Association, so I don't think it's him. There was, and he's not. This was 1937, I think. I got to re-look this up because I'm drawing a blank on the exact date, and I hate that. But there was a doctor. There was a scientist that looked at soil samples, and he found penicillin. Well, in a bacteria shell, for those who know some microbiology, just look at the shell really quick. Okay? All right. Viruses are very different. You'll see them. They'll either look like this, they'll look like this with a little small, maybe even a flagella, They'll look really different. Bacteria, very easy to spot them, very easy, because they have something very similar to them. So they have a shell. That shell is made of a lipoprotein called glyco. So this is a glycoprotein. Okay, so we got glyco, and then inside we got the endoplasmic reticulum. You can look at the Golgi apparatus. We got the ER. We got the Golgi apparatus. We also have the cytoplasm, the lysosomes, mitochondria, everything. So this cell right here, the shell of it, peptidoglycan is the name. That's the spelling of it. Peptidoglycan is only impermeable with penicillin or something of that derivative, because that shell is what protects the inside, and the only way to penetrate through it is to give a type of penicillin. Okay, and with that penicillin will start eating away the cell wall and, of course, kill the organism inside. So when you have a bacterial infection, and I know a lot of people are probably allergic to penicillin, and they'll have something that's kind of like that, but it's not. It doesn't give you, if you're allergic to penicillin, it won't give you those side effects. So you have to penetrate that. Okay. This cell can think on its own. It can do everything. It can breathe on its own. Everything. It replicate. Everything. Okay. And some of them actually have a flagella on them. But you have the Golgi apparatus, mitochondria. Mitochondria is, for those that don't know, develops ATP, adrenaline triphosphates, and that is the powerhouse of the cell. So just like how you eat calories, if I walk right now from here to there, it might have taken maybe 2 adrenaline triphosphates to achieve that. Where do we get energy? Does anybody know? Where do we get energy for our body? What gives energy? How's that? You could say calories, but that is not the answer.
I was going to say food, water.
What kind of food, though? What kind of food? Carbohydrates. That gives a lot of energy. Carbohydrates. What happens if I have too many carbohydrates? Will that hurt me? Yes. If I have too little? Yes. Because if I have too little carbohydrates, what happens? I didn't fill up my gas tank, and I want to go really far, but I just I'm feeling sluggish. I don't have the energy to go further. It's because I didn't eat enough. Okay? I may have went with something that kept me sitting still and kept me happy sitting still, doing nothing, just watching TV all day without an increase in weight gain. Okay? But as soon as I start working out, I stick with the same regimen of food, and for some reason I'm starting to drop weight and I lose energy. Because you're sticking with the same meal plan that kept you alive when you're sitting still stationary. So you have to increase your food intake and maybe change out your food a little bit, making it better for you, especially for performance-wise. Okay? So, viruses and bacteria, which one's worse? So we can get this correct. Which one's worse? They're both very bad, but bacteria are very selfish. They are a lot worse. Okay? What are the percentage, what's the chances? Let me throw a curveball on this one. You have a kid that is immunocompromised, so the parent, thinking they know best, puts that child into a bubble. And that child in a bubble grows up to be 20 years old. The child is then released from the bubble. How long do you think that child has to live in the atmosphere with now the bacteria and viruses and everything? What are the chances to live a long life? Very, very low. In fact, probably give that person maybe a week or two before they die. Because why? No immune support. What do people that are germaphobes, what do they try to do? Sanitize every single thing in their home, not realizing there are good bacterias and there are good viruses. Okay? There are good. I'm saying this because this is a fact. There are good bacteria. We live in bacteria. Just like what that one person said, was it Pamela? We live in bacteria. Bacteria's all over the place. Yes. But they need some resource to keep them alive. So if they stay on a metal pole, they probably wouldn't live there very long unless they have consumed a lot to kind of, keep them stable for X amount of time. In this case, years, depending on the bacteria. Okay? So, what are the symptoms of an infection? First symptom. Usual first symptom. This does not mean every person. The usual symptoms. That's why we never treat one person the same way we treat everyone else. Because everybody's different. Everyone's immune system is different. Everybody's disease is different. Even though they have the same name, they're all different. Okay? Now, let's see. First symptom is usually what? What do you think? A low-grade fever.
That's what Pamela said. Is a fever.
Yeah, very good. Low-grade fever. Okay. I'm going to draw up here an exacerbation bomb. My low-grade fever just started the fuse. Am I a ticking time bomb? Yes, I am. If the fuse burns all the way down here with the symptoms, fuse burns all the way down here, I'm at a point of no return. That's my PNR. Once I get here, it's too late. No matter what I do, the chance of me surviving are really low. This is the point of no return. Once you let your symptoms develop so bad, there's not much a hospital or anybody could do for you. So please take this as serious as possible. Okay? Usually a low-grade fever. Not always. Next symptom. How about increase in heart rate? You guys can throw out symptoms. Go ahead. Increase in heart rate is usually just about here. It's actually kind of in line with this because what causes a fever? What causes a fever, everyone? Don't just give me sickness. What causes a fever? What makes a temperature rise in somebody's body? The increase in blood flow. Your heart does that. So the friction, your blood's running through your veins. Depending on how fast it runs through it, it gets your body to be warm. That's why when your heart stops, the first symptom somebody says is, I feel cold. Because the blood has stopped. There's no friction. So the higher the heart rate, the higher the temperature. Anybody work out with a high heart rate? They're always, they're sweating, right? When they work out, they're sweating. The heart rate's high. Is it because they worked out? Yeah, it's because they worked out, but it's because why? The heart rate's high, causing a lot more friction. So we have an increase in heart rate.
Kenny says shortness of breath.
Shortness of breath will probably be right here, down here. It's not actually the next one down. Short of breath is actually right there. It's close to the PNR. You never want to get to the PNR. Don't worry about this. You're already dead. It's too late for you. You reach here, you're done. There's very little chance you surviving it. Okay? Short of breath is right there. That's how far down the fuse has to burn down, right? So you have a low-grade fever, increase in heart rate. How about unstable oxygen saturations? Unstable oxygen saturations. Everybody, please understand. I want you to really understand an exacerbation, an infection, okay? Because I'm giving you advice, very good advice that I share with my patients. I'm giving you advice to how to save yourself, to keep yourself alive, to understand symptoms that could cause you to die. So please take this as seriously as possible, and please do me a favor, take notes. Okay? Take notes.
Marty says body aches after.
Body aches is usually afterwards, but you could have body aches, of course. I'm not going to say no to that. We can say body aches. Body aches is pretty much after all. I mean, usually the next day you'll get those body aches, depending on how sick you are. But let's leave that out for a second. It's still a great symptom. I'll add it in, but it's like the next day, after all those. Your body's working so hard to fight the infection that has very little time of helping everything else out. That's why when we're sick, what's our doctor recommends? Bed rest, right? Okay. Let's talk about unstable oxygen saturations. What do I mean by unstable oxygen saturations? What do I mean by that, everybody? Come on, give me some answers. What do I mean by unstable? Meaning, let's say you average, 95% SpO2, okay? But currently, your SpO2 is at, let's say, 90, and just a little bit of movement, your oxygen drops dramatically down to 80, and has a hard time coming up. That's unstable oxygen sats. You're getting very close to that PNR. You're getting really close to that bomb. You should never, ever, ever, ever have waited that long to see a doctor once you get that. Ever. That's a big no-no. That's a slap in the hand. Okay, that's a big, big no-no. All right. Unstable oxygen saturations. Now, how about green and yellow sputum?
Yeah, Pamela did say congestion earlier.
Green, yellow sputum. Okay. Things are getting worse. How about diarrhea? Yeah, diarrhea will happen. Body's trying to reject. That's usually the last resort, but body's trying to reject whatever is in you. So, mind you, this is not everybody. Some people might not have the diarrhea. Some people might not have the yellow congestion. Okay? But usually this is what we see. You have a low-grade fever, increase in heart rate, yellow and green sputum. You're congested. Your work of shortness of breath is starting to heighten. Okay? Your SpO2, your oxygen just drops and takes forever for it to come back up. Okay? Are you in a worst case scenario basis? Once you reach here? Yes, you are. And spraying Windex down your throat or something like that, or taking a respiratory medication might not fix that problem. Okay? What would you possibly need for this? Depending on the organism, right? First thing doctors will do most of the time is what? Always give you antibiotics. Okay? If you don't have a good immune system, they're going to boost up your immune system. They're going to try to. And in this case, because your body's not fighting for itself like you used to do, they're going to give you some antibiotics. And then you have that person that says, I hate those antibiotics. I'm going to stop taking those because it makes me feel horrible. And I'm going to stop taking them, and then you're wondering why you wind up in the hospital. Because you didn't listen to your doctor when they said, take him as soon as you go home. And you waited because you felt like you know better than your doctor. I'm sorry, guys. Doctors go to school for a long, long, long time. Okay, we have to trust our doctors. Okay, but there are good doctors and there are bad doctors. I'm not disputing that. But if your doctor is literally saying, take it as soon as you get home, fill out the prescriptions filled out, get your prescription, take it as soon as you go home, call me in 7 days, do exactly what your doctor said. Take it. Don't wait. Don't wait. Okay?
Is that how you can fight pneumonia?
How you fight pneumonia and exacerbation, everything. Just by looking at symptoms. Something as simple as that. That's why it's a great idea to do what per day? Journals. Write down in a journal. Write down on your calendar. Are you developing any symptoms? Have you a small increase in weight? Don't think it was because of the donut I had yesterday. Just write them down. If you have an increase in weight, don't just say increase in weight. Put down the actual number. Well, let's say I was 200 pounds. Now I'm 201. That's not a big deal. Clinicians will think different. You might not think that's a big deal, but to a clinician, that might be a big deal. We don't know until we give the information that we have and present it to our doctor when our doctor asks us questions. How are you feeling? Because if I am very vague, if I'm very vague with my symptoms, my doctor will just say, all right, just go to the hospital. But if I'm very specific, your doctor probably exactly knows what is going on and say, oh, yeah, that's that stomach virus that's going around. Stop by CVS or Walgreens or Walmart or something, pick up the medication, call me in 7 days, you'll be just fine. Versus you go into the hospital and then you have a $30,000 bill from going to the hospital and staying there for about a month. Versus the medication you pay $5, $10 out of pocket. Which one would you rather prefer? I prefer the medication than seeing and going into the hospital where there's other people that go in there that are sick. I don't want that to happen, So I'm not saying don't ever go to the hospital. I'm just saying you have to really understand the principle here. You have to understand the topic. We're talking about exacerbations. We're talking about pneumonia. We're talking about sickness, being sick in general. We're talking about viruses, bacteria. Okay, these are things that are coming up because why? Winter months. What happens when in winter months? What does our body try to do? Does it go to hibernation like a bear? No. What does it try to do? Stay warm. There's a certain food that people tend to be very cold during the winter months, of course, because it is winter. And there's a certain food that you can eat to increase your temperature, making you more conductive, let's say. What food is that? It's a cereal, believe it or not.
Cheerios? No, that's hard. Never mind. Sorry.
No. It's still not bad because it still has iron in it. You can go with Cheerios. Oatmeal is the best. Oatmeal. Why? Why oatmeal? Why oatmeal? Because it has a lot of iron in it. Iron in itself makes you more conductive. So you put iron in your system, a little bit more iron in your system, unless your doctor, doesn't want you to take supplemental iron or, stay away from iron or something like that. That's different, okay? But iron, you increase the iron, you increase the chances of you maintaining a good temperature. When we lack iron, we start becoming a little more anemic. We get cold very easily. Our hands start very cold. But eating a little bit more oatmeal during the winter months is very highly suggested, not just by me, but just by dietitians in general, and doctors and other clinicians. Oatmeal, yes. Winter, does it have a lot of humidity? Does winter have a lot of humidity? No. How much water are we supposed to drink per day, everybody? How much water are we supposed to drink? 8 to 12 glasses. 8 to 12 glasses per day, right? Sounds like a lot. Well, if that's for the whole day, that's not that much. For it's the whole entire day, that's not that much. 8 to 12, that's not that bad. Okay? But yes, we have to consume. We have to consume. I'm not saying a big gulp like 8 to 12 of these. I'm talking about 8 to 12 of 8-ounce cups. Okay?
A glass of water.
A glass of water. Exactly. A glass of water. Okay? Hydration, very important, especially during the winter. If I have to be out in the cold, like today was 30 degrees outside. If I have to be out in the cold... also, the problem with no humidity is your congestion, if you have any, will start getting very, very, very thick. Very, very thick. Okay? Very thick. Sorry, I was just clearing my throat. Okay. So I'm outside, and it's very cold outside. If I breathe in really quickly, it might cause me to wheeze. What should I eat before going outside, you think? Anybody?
Ooh, I know.
1 apple will reduce wheezing by 30%. This is just helpful tips. 1 apple will reduce wheezing by 30% if eaten 15 minutes before going outside. Second, scarf. Put a scarf over your face. And covering your whole entire face, but at least over your mouth. Okay, why is that? Because you're making an artificial HME, heat and moisture exchanger. When you breathe out, humidity comes out because you're getting rid of water, vapor as well as air. Okay, but you're getting rid of water vapor, and if that saturates into your scarf, you breathe it in, you are humidifying air coming in. It's a heat and moisture exchanger. It's not the greatest one, but it'll work. Okay. We usually give heat and moisture exchangers to people that have a tracheostomy. All right, winter months. What types of clothing? Enough to make you feel comfortable outside, right? Depending on how long you're going to stay outside. If you have to stay outside for a long time, then you definitely want to bulk up on your calories a little bit. You definitely want to bulk up. Calories. You want to bulk up your calories, but also what do you want to do? Dress properly. Okay, that goes without saying. If we have to be outside for more than 2 hours, then you want to dress warmer. If you're only, then you probably just need a jacket. Always prepare to dress in the, proper clothing when you're outside, depending on the weather temperatures. Okay? Too much heat. If you develop too much heat, what does that make you feel like? Lightheaded and dizzy. Okay? Hydration. If I'm dehydrated, will that make me feel lightheaded and dizzy? Of course. Of course it will. Just make sure you're drinking plenty of water. Make sure you're prepared, plan your route. If you have to be outside in cold temperatures, plan your route. Is there a snowstorm? Is this road blocked off? Do I have my supplemental oxygen with me? Is there a fire somewhere? Plan the route. Make sure that you have enough time to get from point A to point B and back. And always account for flat tires and traffic. Okay, even if your place that you're at has no traffic, just add that into your calculations. Okay, all right.
So, Alex,
that's all I have.
Right now. Before we sign off, you want to share that exciting news we've been teasing all day for everybody?
Which one?
There's
like 10 things in my head that are incredible.
The one that is just related to telemedicine and pulmonary rehab and cardiac rehab.
All right. So for those that do not know, Medicare has extended telerehabilitation throughout 2024. They'll do this every year. They've extended telerehabilitation. It's a very promising thing that they did because it's not getting rid of telerehabilitation. That includes us, of course, because we're specifically telerehabilitation. But for those that are worried that telerehab wasn't going to not last after COVID, it's lasting. It's going to be a permanent addition soon enough. But right now they did extend it for more studies as they need more and more studies. What should you do in the meantime as you're waiting for that to be a complete addition to Medicare. Like where it's not a temporary code, it's actually a permanent code. Well, what can you do as a patient? So if you go to the American Association of Respiratory Care, AARC.org. It's a large website for people that's in respiratory care, but specifically, is that snow? That's snow.
Yeah, it was flurrying earlier.
Wow, okay. All right. Anyways, go to the ARC and find about how you can actually send a letter to Congress, because the more letters they get, the more chances they are of going to make it a permanent addition after 2024, okay, like in 2025. All right. It does help. It doesn't just help us. You're talking about your fellow neighbors, anybody who has lung disease. Because you get rid of telemedicine, you get rid of us. And what does that happen? Well, and what would happen if that happened? The best pulmonary rehab program that should be modeled, that's the one thing that has fixed everybody, will be completely obsolete. And then you would have to pay for it out of pocket. And that's very expensive to pay for something like that out of pocket. Pulmonary rehab, any pulmonary rehab is impossible. It's nearly impossible to pay out of pocket. Okay, unless you go to, of course, mind you, lungs and do it that way. And that's very affordable, but it's very expensive to try to pay out of pocket. Okay, it's healthcare, guys. I don't know what else to say about it, but it's healthcare. That's just what doctors and we have to pay doctors. We have to pay respiratory. We have to pay for the clinicians in general. But everybody, that's it. I want you to walk away with this. Specifically, walk away with this. Just a quick technique on walking and breathing. Okay. There are two ratios when it comes to walking and breathing. One step, I do what? Breathe in. How deep? Halfway, enough to see a chest rise. Don't just lift your chest. Breathe in until you get a satisfied chest rise, meaning where you can visually see your chest rising as you breathe in. If you're breathing in and you don't really notice much of a chest rise, it's not deep enough. Okay, so I take one step, I breathe in. Deep enough to get a chest rise. One step, I exhale. One step in, one step out. As I move faster, Olivia, as I move faster, what do? Do I shorten up my depth of my volume? No. Maintain it the same way. If you're needing to see a chest rise, you can do it fast. So if I'm, let's say I'm walking or jogging, I'm doing a 101. I can do it fast. If you don't have the muscle strength, then you have to work on what? Cardio. You got to work on cardio training. Respiratory muscle training and cardio training. One step inhale, one step exhale. The other ratio is 2 steps. It's a 2-on-1. Every 2 steps you take, breathe in, 2 steps, you breathe out. The faster you go, the faster your respiratory rate, because you're basing your respiratory rate off of what? Your steps. Guys, that's all I have for today. Thank you very much for joining, and I'll see you next time.